Welcome back to Fics and Recs, a fanfiction podcast. I'm your host, WMN. Today, we are joined by the author of our last episode's featured fanfictions, Pumpkin and Zombie. Welcome to the podcast, LillyWhitefield.
Hi. Oh my gosh, it feels so exciting to, talk to you.
I love it. I just want to say that I feel like there's a different energy for me today as we go into our chat. Because before now, every author I interviewed, I've only ever interacted with them as a reader in their AO3 comments.
Really?
Yes. And you and I have shared community together on Discord for 2 years.
Yes.
And so, but I don't want to be like, oh, name dropping. LillyWhitefield and I are besties. Because the majority of our interactions still happened in AO3 comment sections.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of connection that's forged when you experience Luke Newton dropping his Cinnamon Social 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 picture together.
Yeah.
Real time.
Yeah.
We were there together screaming.
It was like a spiritual experience.
That was such a fandom moment for me.
Yeah, there were several big fandom moments I feel like in 2022, especially.
Yeah. We suffered the drought together.
Yes.
Everything was such a celebration.
Yes. Yeah. Any new picture, any blurry photo.
Yeah.
We were just so excited and just eating everything up.
The clowning was a major part of it too because we got nothing.
Yeah.
There's just something about constant stream of community within the space together.
It's been so much fun. Seriously.
Yes.
I don't know what I would have done without the Discord in the dark times.
In the darkest of times.
Yeah.
The tears streaking down our clown makeup faces.
Tearing every little bit of information apart.
Every bit of information.
Yeah, just the commiseration I don't want to say misery because we were excited.
Absolutely. Should I call you? Okay, so I kind of want to just call you LillyWhitefield, but it's so strange to call you Lily knowing your name's not Lily.
Yeah, no, you can call me Lily. That's fine because, it's my pen name. I don't have my name publicly out. So, yeah, Lily's absolutely fine. Okay. Or Book. Either one's fine. I always say, because people, I spell Lily with 2 L's.
Yes, you do.
And sometimes people spell it with 1 L, and it doesn't really matter because it's not my real name, so I don't actually care how you spell it.
Yeah.
I had to differentiate myself from the other Lilies somehow, so I'm Lily with 2 L's, I guess.
But why LillyWhitefield?
So that goes back to, it was, I want to say 2009, and it was my first vague attempt at writing fanfiction. I never actually, I published some stuff, but it's been taken down. It's long been taken down. But I was making my fanfiction.net account, and I wanted to come up with a name because even at that point, I was super into historical romance novels. I wanted to come up with a name that sounded like a historical romance author.
Yes.
And I had a dog at the time. Her name was Lily, spelled with 2 L's. And then I just kind of kept putting 2 words together until I came up with Whitefield, and I was like, that sounds good, and that's how I picked it.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would love to just start digging deeper into your history and ask you, what was the fandom that got you reading fan fiction, and how did you get into reading fan fiction?
Yeah. So it might come as a surprise to a lot of people because it's a very different fandom than Bridgerton. But I started reading fan fiction because I watched Naruto, which is an anime. And it was probably around 2006, and I didn't start reading it on a traditional website that you might think of, fanfiction.net or anything. AO3 didn't exist at that point.
Yeah, no.
I started reading it on Quizilla. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do not know what that is.
So, as the name might suggest, it was a website that was intended for, making your own quizzes. So, personality quizzes or whatever, you would make your own. But people ended up using it to make, like, choose your own adventures or, you know, like self-insert kinds of sort of things. And the stuff that I was reading was 7 Minutes in Heaven fanfiction.
Interesting.
So, which was basically like self-insert fanfiction where you would get a list of either characters or objects or something, and then you would pick one, and you know what the game 7 Minutes in Heaven is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you go into a closet for 7 minutes with someone, you do whatever it is that you do.
In this case, so you choose...
It would depend. I would usually end up reading all of the options because I'm a completionist.
Yes, same.
So I would read all of them. I definitely had my favorite characters that I liked. I really liked Gaara. I also liked Kakashi. This was specifically for my Naruto era, I guess.
So there were multiple 7 Minutes in Heaven Naruto fics.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I didn't have access to... I didn't get my own computer until I was 18 years old. So the way I read this was on my Nintendo DS. Like, literally at 10 o'clock at night. I'm supposed to be sleeping, not sleeping. I'm up reading fanfic.
On your DS?
Yeah, on my Nintendo DS, yeah. And I think I found fanfiction.net because I, like, ran out because I was reading them so much.
It's real. The struggle's real.
Yeah, so I think I must have just Googled, like, Naruto 7 Minutes in Heaven, and there was probably some on fanfiction.net, and that's how I discovered that, and that kind of opened everything up for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's so much more on fanfiction.net, and now there's even more on AO3, and it was just like a domino effect.
So
really.
What was it about Naruto that drew you to want more? It was it the characters or because it's a simple premise.
Yeah, it was like... So the way I got into that show was it was actually something I did to bond with my brothers.
Oh.
It was something we watched together. And we enjoyed together. We talked about it together because it's such like a big world. It's very rich. There's so many characters.
Big world, LillyWhitefield. Rich world, LillyWhitefield. Interesting. I can see the birth of future LillyWhitefield, and that's really cool to hear you say that the world was big, and it is full of details. So it's really cool to hear that.
I can definitely see the string that kind of led me to where I am today.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. But what was the fandom that got you actually writing fan fiction?
Actually writing. So it was 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴. That's the first, like, serious fan fiction I wrote. I have been watching 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 since 2012 when it first came out. I have been a big fan of it. I've seen it countless times. It's like my comfort show. It's the show I put on whenever I just need to have something on in the background. I could talk about it for hours. And I don't know what it was about 2018, but that was when I decided to start writing for it. I was just super inspired enough to write. I've always been writing to a certain degree.
I was going to ask, how so?
I would write journals. I would write like little movie scripts.
Really?
Because I love movies. And I would always try to get my brothers to film things with me.
Aww. Is there a particular genre of movies that you liked, or just everything?
Not really. It depends on like my mood and like the time of year. I like right now I love like some horror, some suspense.
Okay, give me some top horror suspense recommendations.
Top horror. The first one that comes to mind is The Lost Boys. I love The Lost Boys.
Classic.
I also love Jennifer's Body. This sort of ties into Jennifer's Body. I love Lisa Frankenstein as well.
Oh, yeah.
I love a movie that's a little bit camp. I don't want to treat my media too seriously, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, especially as a LillyWhitefield reader.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's just a sense of fun in everything that you write. So it's really, really, I love that you just said that, because as someone who's been with you from the beginning, I would say that's a defining characteristic of how I experience your writing. So
yeah, it's just how I prefer to consume things, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there are definitely times where, you know, I read a serious book, I watch a serious movie.
Yeah.
But I generally prefer stuff that is a little bit goofy, maybe, doesn't take itself seriously. You know, it can have plot holes, it can have weird logic that you just kind of have to go with and you just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
This sort of ties into Bridgerton a little bit because I also love the Lake Placid series, the franchise. And I did not realize this until reflecting back. But Luke Newton was in a Lake Placid movie that I saw before I ever knew who he was. I think I watched it with my mom or something like that because she was the one who showed me all of these like sort of campy horror movies like Lake Placid.
Oh, I watched campy horror with my mom too. My mom passed away.
Oh.
One of the last movies we ever watched was Ghost Shark. And I just remember it's like one of my favorite memories because she was like, you have to watch Ghost Shark with me. You have to watch it. And I was like, okay, Mom, I'm going to watch Ghost Shark with you. And it's literally one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. And it is one of my favorite memories that I will ever have with my mom is watching Ghost Shark. So I really, it's just, I love that you have that with your mom. It's special. It really is.
That's so wonderful. I do the same thing. Whenever we get together, there's usually some weird horror movie that's not really horror. It's not really horror at that point. It's more of a comedy, really. But they're just so much fun.
They are. Why not have fun?
But yeah, that I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I definitely saw this movie before I ever knew what Bridgerton was.
And now here you are. With the most intimate knowledge of Luke Newton.
Yes. Maybe too much, but...
I don't know how we got here from Call the Midwife.
I have no idea. No clue.
So the first fandom you wrote for was Call the Midwife?
Yeah, I wrote for Call the Midwife. The specific couple that I love in Call the Midwife is it's called Ternadette. They're called Ternadette. Sheila Turner and Patrick Turner. She was a nun at the start of the series, and he is the doctor. I don't know if you've ever seen Call the Midwife, but for anyone who has not.
I just started.
Sorry if I just spoiled it.
No.
It's been like 10 years.
No, so. Exactly. What's the there's a respectable timeline for spoilage, and it's past. It's past.
Yeah.
I want to know what drew you to that couple. What was it about that couple?
In my head, they're sort of a friends to lovers couple, which is generally my jam. Yeah. Big surprise.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you started off writing about that couple?
Yes. Yeah. So their storyline of how they get together is just so good because like she is questioning her religion and what it means and if she can stop being a nun to be with this man. And the way they get together is just so beautiful. And, you know, he has a son from his previous marriage. And
so it was a complex canon.
Yeah.
Were you creating totally different worlds for them or were you diving into...
No.
What were you doing?
So at first I just wrote a couple of one-shots. I was sort of building on stuff that wasn't in the show.
Yeah.
Whether for one reason or another, it just wasn't in the show.
Like a missing scenes?
Yeah, basically, yeah, missing scenes. The first thing I wrote, it was, of course, very explicit, because how can I do anything else? And it was just like a little snapshot into their life. And then the second thing I wrote was their first date, because we go right from, in the season 2 finale, you know, she's officially not a nun anymore and they become engaged. And then in the Christmas special, because they always do a Christmas special, they're getting married. And I'm like, wait a minute. Whoa, we're missing some stuff here.
Yeah.
So I wrote their first date.
So that's interesting. It seems like you stay very much in canon, very much within the world.
Yeah.
For Call the Midwife.
Yeah, compared to
Bridgerton.
In Bridgerton, I have not.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that both Naruto and Call the Midwife have so much foundational material compared to Polin.
Yeah.
Naruto has 9 seasons for the original show and then 21 seasons afterwards, 72 books. I'm not sure how many of the books that you read. And then Call the Midwife has 13 seasons, 113 episodes.
Yes.
So you went from that to 2 seasons and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And 1 book for Polin. The contrast is striking. It's such a different set of circumstances for writing and reading and immersing yourself in fan fiction.
Yeah.
What was it about Polin that made you go full force? Because here we are, 48 fics under the Bridgerton tag. And in my opinion, it should be more like 60. I think a good portion of the It Was a Graveyard Smash chapters could have been standalone fics.
Yeah.
Although I do love them being in one fic, so I can just download it.
Yeah.
But technically, 48, that is a lot. And you went full force, and you had 20 minutes and 1 book of canon to play with.
Yeah.
I just think that's so interesting.
I get it. So how I got interested in Bridgerton, I've always been interested in period dramas of all kinds. I love Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice. I love Sense and Sensibility more, which I know is a very controversial opinion.
I'm a Persuasion person.
Oh, I also love Persuasion. I love Persuasion probably second. Yeah, I think Emma is probably third, actually.
And then Pride and Prejudice?
Yeah, I'm not an enemies to lovers person. And, I still love Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's still, so good.
So you love Regency.
I love Regency. I love Downton Abbey as well. And then, right now, I love, the Golden Age and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Any period drama, I'm just I'll try this out and see if I enjoy it, basically.
But something happened with Bridgerton.
Yeah. Bridgerton's very... And you know what? I used to read all Jane Austen fanfiction.
It's a good tag.
Yeah. There's a lot of it on fanfiction.net as well. More than AO3. And I mean, of course, being who I am, I was reading the explicit ones.
Why not?
So when I saw what Bridgerton was and what it was being advertised as, I was like, oh my God, it's like Jane Austen. But
sexy.
Sexy. And that's what I've wanted.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Lily. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And it was just an instant connection.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I watched it when it first came out. Over Christmas, season 1.
Yeah.
Because I was in the middle of moving at the time, and I was moving across the country, which I was I know I'm going to like this. And so I want to be able to invest myself in it. And I can't do that if I'm in the middle of moving. So I waited until we had finished moving. And I think it was maybe April or something like that. I finally got around to watching it. And I was just oh my God, I love this so much. And I was immediately drawn to Colin and Penelope. From literally the Penelope 𝘍𝘬 scene. I was oh
yes.
I love them.
That scene, Nicola Coughlan and Luke Newton just smashed that scene and created an entire fandom.
They just they stole my heart immediately.
𝘍𝘬 was the heat. You saw that moment of heat and you're oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, this is gonna be good.
So, but you didn't start writing until much later. July of 2022.
Yes.
So what was happening July of 2022? 4 months after season 2, what was why were you it's time, LillyWhitefield?
After season 2, I bought all of the books and I read them in order. I do this with all of the historical romance series that I read. I read them from the beginning in order. And I think it's because I am neurodivergent. I have OCD. Mm-hmm. I'm a completionist. I have to complete things and I have to do them in order.
I feel that. I feel that deeply.
Yes. There are some that I definitely read through a lot faster, just because I wanted to get to the next one.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Ben's book, just because love at first sight trope is not something that really resonates with me.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what Luke Newton does with it.
Yes. Yeah, I love Luke Thompson. Yeah, he is
I said Luke Newton. I'm excited to see what Luke Thompson does with it because he's an extremely skilled actor.
Me too. I'm sure it'll be great. I don't take my media very seriously.
Same.
I'm sure it'll be great. I watch it because I love Bridgerton.
Yeah. I keep getting you off track.
I know. It's okay. I do this all the time.
So you made it through the books?
Yes, I read all of them. And so, and it's so funny because you say that there's one book for Colin and Penelope, but they're really scattered through most of the books.
Little tiny glimpses, yeah. Mostly Colin.
Yes.
I loved Where's Colin Bridgerton. I loved finding him in every single book. I loved, reading this series because of him.
I think he's in, I think it's First Comes Scandal, and he's like a baby.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Even without Colin, that's my favorite of the 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 books.
It is a good one.
Yeah, and he's already eating food, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is so cute. And then I think, Georgie, she tells Violet there needs to be another redhead in the family or something like that. And Violet's holding Colin as she says it.
I know.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I talked about that a little bit on the last episode with British Teacup. And it was glorious because they wrote Georgie and Nicholas in a couple of their fics too.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't delved too much into the 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴s or the Smythe Smiths, even though I have read their books and I do enjoy them. So there's potential for that someday. But
if there's potential for that, I will be here for it.
Okay.
What was it on your journey? What was it that was like, I gotta write. It's time to write.
Yeah. So it was announced that they were going to be season 3, right? And I had kind of had a feeling based on how season 2 ended that might be the case.
Yeah.
And so when it was announced, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm all in. This is it. I'm going. It was like the floodgates opened. I started thinking of ideas. The first thing that I wrote was Summer Afternoons, which originally was going to be a one-shot. And then I just kind of kept going.
I love that was how LillyWhitefield was introduced to the tags.
Yeah.
It was sexy and it was fun.
And, a lot of the inspiration for that, it came from I was in my own house and I was hot. And I was sick of being hot. So I wrote that.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was like, God, I have air conditioning and I'm still hot. How did they deal with this back then? So that's how it kind of came about, I guess. And then I don't know. It's like once I started writing for them, I just couldn't stop.
Yeah, I think it's really special that you've been writing for us for years.
Yeah.
And you started with Summer Afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you gave us that one. I was like, oh, LillyWhitefield, sexy and like fun. But then you give us Penelope Needs to Know.
Yeah.
In your notes, you wrote, this is the first time I've ever written with an actual plot that isn't pure smut from start to finish.
Yep.
So that was your first story that wasn't smut from start to finish.
Yeah, and it was mostly just because I had this idea and I was like, I don't think I can write this as one chapter. I think I have to split it up.
And when I sit and I reflect and I also remember you starting to post this, I just think it's so LillyWhitefield and so wonderful that like you wrote this story about Penelope wanting to know about Colin's. I mean, really at the center of it is Colin's giant monster member. Actually, a very Polin story.
Yeah. It has a somewhat of a plot, and it's still them, right?
The premise is so not serious. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
And yet, the story is still a Polin story.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that is so fun.
Yeah.
What was it that made Penelope Needs to Know the first, what did you call it again? The first time you've ever written anything with an actual plot that isn't pure smut from start to finish. What was it about the story of Penelope Needs to Know that felt like was the story you wanted to tell first?
So it's based off of a Doja Cat song.
Yes, it is in fact in the Modern Polin Doja Cat romance series. It's a 3-part series.
Yes, yeah. Which it's so funny because I hardly ever write modern things anymore. It's just that was the way that I can only see that premise working in a modern AU.
Yeah.
I don't know. My brain just works at like 1,000 miles a minute constantly. Yeah. It's the OCD, really.
I love that you can channel it into telling stories.
Yeah. And it truly is helpful because when I'm writing, it focuses my brain into one thing and I can allow my brain to go at 1,000 miles a minute and it's helpful.
I love that for us.
Yeah. And I have 2 screens for my computer and I always got one thing on one screen and something else on the other screen. I'm always doing like 4 things at once, which is not always good. It's not always productive, but when writing, it's helpful. And then when I'm thinking of ideas for things, I'll be thinking so fast. And all of a sudden, it's like 2 ideas converge and it just clicks. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I could write that.
So it was the Doja Cat that got you there.
Yeah, it was definitely Doja Cat that got me there. I was probably listening to Doja Cat and just like browsing Tumblr. And I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
This could be a fic. And then I just started writing it. And as I started writing it, I was like, oh, I'm writing a lot. This is a lot. I think I'm going to have to break this up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Ugh, I love you. There are some people who can remember every single Polin fanfiction ever written.
Yeah.
I am unfortunately not some people.
Yeah.
So that said, I distinctly remember Penelope Needs to Know.
Mm-hmm.
I reread it just last week, and I was like, I remember all of this.
I went back and I reread it recently, too, because I figured it would come up.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a ton of it.
Really?
I know.
I mean, you've written 500,000 words.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't remember it, because there are certain things that I do remember. I remember the premise.
And you started out with that massive scene with all the ladies.
I remember that. I do remember writing that because I remember being like, oh my God, I'm really bad at writing scenes with more than 2 characters.
You did
really
such
hard.
A great job because the characterization has to be good. Otherwise, you're like, who? What?
Yeah.
No, it was absolutely clear and so much fun.
You know what's funny? I still, to this day, if there's a scene with more than like 3 people, I will write out a diagram of where they are sitting and their names and all of that, just so I can like keep it in my head.
Yeah.
Who is in the scene, where they're sitting, who they have to turn to, if they have to like talk across a table or something.
Yeah.
Because I will mix it up. If
I do that. I do that when I alpha for people. I'm like, oh wait, no. How did his hand get from there to there?
Yeah. Because of their height difference, I have drawn...
You've drawn the diagram?
Yeah, with like weird little stick figures. I'm like, would this work? How would this work? How can I make this work?
I love that. You're on it. You are doing all of that work.
Honestly, I've used alphas before.
Yeah.
Not very often though, because like I just have such a clear vision of what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know how I'm going to end the fic, I just see the start of it in my head and I just start writing. I just start going.
It just seems like you're naturally inclined to think about those logistical details as well. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, just to close out Penelope Needs to Know, the Doja Cat series, as I was rereading it, I just thought, Colin needs to know. And then you gave us Why Don't You Say So, Colin?
Yeah.
That's what I affectionately call in my head, Colin Needs to Know.
I know. I wrote that like second little part to it because as I was writing Penelope Needs to Know, I was trying to keep it from Penelope's point of view, obviously, because it's Penelope Needs to Know, but I found myself dipping into Colin's point of view a lot. And so I was like, no, I can't put that in there because I want to keep it separate, right? I want to kind of, build the suspense from Penelope, her viewpoint, that sort of thing. And so after I had finished publishing the first part, I was like, I think I could clean this up a little bit and just post 2 chapters just for anyone who wanted more who wanted to know what Colin was doing, because he was also confused. He also was like struggling.
Yeah. And you could tell in Penelope Needs to Know that Colin had stuff going on that we didn't know about.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So I just love it when authors give us like a little bit more time with these characters that we got to know.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, each fic has their own little version of Colin and Penelope.
They do.
Yeah.
So then you came back for Valentine's Day and you finished out that series. So I thought that was really special.
I did. Doja Cat came out with another song, so I had to. And they talked about she talked about a mirror on the ceiling, and I was like, okay, that's it. That's the fic.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Sorry. You gotta do it.
It's writing itself.
Yes, LillyWhitefield, you were responsible for some of my favorite mirror scenes, which is saying a lot.
Everyone has their own version. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all good.
I just love it.
I don't think I will ever say no to a mirror scene.
You gave that couple that we spent time with, you gave them a very distinct mirror scene, and you gave them a chaotic proposal and a Valentine.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really special that you let us stay with them for a little while longer.
Yeah.
So, after that, what was this decision to go from the Doja Cat series to romancing Captain Bridgerton?
That happened because the paparazzi pictures of Luke Newton in his brown pirate coat dropped.
Did you write that in the notes? Did I not know this?
I don't know if I've ever talked about it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if but that's what happened. I saw that coat and I was like, no Colin looks like a pirate. You know what pirates do? They sail on the ocean. Do you know what else is in the ocean? Mermaids. What if Penelope was a mermaid?
I love it. It's so great. Here we've been talking for a little bit. It just goes along with everything that we know about you, that would be the inspiration and train of thought that got you there.
It was literally just like just a bunch of thoughts that managed to converge all at once.
And then there you were, 8.5 months, 21 chapters.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of words. I think it made it to 100K words. I think.
Yeah. So Luke Newton, Colin Bridgerton, spoiler, led to this huge fic.
Yep.
I love it. So yeah. So what was the journey of romancing Captain Bridgerton like?
I just started writing. Now, a lot of the time when I start writing and publishing something, I know where it's going. Yeah. I have it plotted out. Mm-hmm. I did not have that for romancing Captain Bridgerton.
Wow.
I was just so into the idea of Pirate Colin and Mermaid Penelope. I just started writing.
No way. The world building from the top.
Yeah.
Figuring out Merworld. Yeah. Figuring out how.
Yeah, that was what I spent a lot of the first couple of chapters doing. Yeah. And then I was like, how do I get them together? And then I was like, okay, I kind of need to have some other kind of plot other than just them getting together, because surely there's got to be more complications.
It could have been that just them getting together.
Yeah.
That could have been a choice, and it would have been a great fic anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting to hear that that is not the choice you decided to go with. You decided to do a 21-chapter fic and have this Portia storyline and all of these storms.
And there were definitely times where I was in the middle of writing and I'm like, oh my God, I should have made this shorter. Why did I do this?
But it's epic. It's such an epic tale.
Yeah. No, and now that it's finished, I'm still very proud of it. Yeah. I'm like, this is good. It stays true to the stuff that I like about Colin and Penelope.
Yeah.
They're sort of like us against the world kind of thing. Even if they've been fighting, even if they, aren't exactly happy with each other, they're still so in love with each other that, they're going to fight for one another. Right.
Yeah. You said earlier that like you just dove in. Haha. Hey, I did a Colin. You dove in, but at what point did you sit down and really hammer out what was going to happen? Or did you just keep going with the flow?
There was definitely a point, I think around chapter 10.
Yeah. Oh.
Maybe 9 or 10.
Okay.
That I was like, okay, I have to figure out the rest of this plot, because in my head, it was not wrapping up that soon. Like I had more that I needed to tell. Being a mermaid that comes into like the human world, there's got to be problems with that, right? Mm-hmm.
Can I just say that, like, right around chapter 10 is when I thought, oh, this could get wrapped up.
Yeah.
But we still have 11 chapters left. So it's so interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
So it was after 10 that you nailed down what the complications were going to be and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's when, I really sort of dove into, like, the Portia conflict of it. And then the conflict of just this new relationship that they're trying to figure out and the dynamic that they're trying to figure out because Penelope has certain needs, obviously, when she's a mermaid.
Yes.
And, the mermaid secret sort of stood in for, like, the Lady Whistledown secret, I guess, which was a decision that I think right around chapter 10 is when I really sort of dug into that and solidified that in the story because there's no Lady Whistledown in this story. It just wasn't possible.
No. And they didn't have a prior relationship either. And so Whistledown wouldn't have landed.
No, it just wouldn't have been the same. There was no way to do it.
Although she is so important and it's such a quintessential part of canon, it is something that, like, we have to deal with and juggle with. And even in season 3, we knew because, and of course, it's a part of the show. It had to be dealt with, but we know that, like, Whistledown was always going to be a big part of our canon.
Yeah.
So I'm all for authors bypassing it.
Yeah.
Because it helps us explore other things.
Yeah, I bypass it or there's other ways for them to have conflict in their relationship, right?
Yeah. And lots of authors take Whistledown out of modern AUs because it's hard to make Whistledown have the same kind of importance in a modern AU.
I've noticed that. And yeah, you're right. It really doesn't work very well in modern.
The setup has to be totally different.
Yeah, it doesn't hit the same. So maybe that's why I don't write modern AUs very much anymore. Because I do enjoy exploring the Lady Whistledown conflict between them.
I'm also just a fan of Regency because there's limitations. So there's inherent conflict. Yeah.
There's this set of rules of their society that you have to work around.
Regency period just gives us that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that I personally enjoy both reading and writing myself.
Speaking of you enjoying writing Regency and Lady Whistledown, let's talk about Poison Tree.
Okay.
I think you wrote that one of the reasons you wrote Poison Tree.
It was a little bit out of spite.
Well, I don't think you called it spite, but
no, I didn't call it spite then. But I'm saying now it was a little bit of spite. Now. Yeah,
it was a little bit out of spite. Oh, you called it frustration?
Yeah, it was frustration. Yeah. By the time the idea for A Poison Tree came up in my head, I was like, I don't want this to be a season 3 fic. I want it to be its own thing.
Yeah.
I guess, like an alternate timeline sort of thing.
Even though Poison Tree wasn't a prediction fic, when we got to have that really complex reaction about Lady Whistledown in season 3, I did also think about you, and I was like, oh, that's really cool that Poison Tree explored that, and that's how it actually came out to be. Because it was a little bit taboo to write Colin having a really bad reaction. You know, there were fics in the past where he was upset. You explored it.
Yeah.
You let him deal with it. You let him get dark with it. You let him be honest because they're friends.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a key thing in their relationship is that they are friends, and friends don't always say the nicest things to each other when they're mad. You know, you get mad with friends.
And she wasn't honest with him, and I'm sure, I mean, and Eloise was upset about that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, it was a taboo. It was a taboo thing to really explore.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's so different now, and maybe people who have only recently come into the fandom and started writing or reading fanfiction don't know this, but back in April 2023, like when I was writing this, it was definitely a little bit taboo to deal with that. And I got comments. I think it was chapter 3 was the big argument that they had where they really started to hash things out.
Yeah.
People were so mad at Colin for being mad at Penelope. They were so mad.
So you were getting comments.
Yeah. And most of the comments were not overtly like hate comments. They were just comments of like, oh my God, I'm so mad at Colin. I hate him. Why is he reacting like this? And I'm just like, because he is friends with Penelope. He cares so deeply for her, and he is so hurt by her withholding this information. And Penelope was also hurt because she overheard him say, I would never court Penelope Featherington. They're both hurting right now. Yeah. And then one of my favorite tropes is, it's called like forced marriage, which sounds awful, but it's
because it skips so many steps.
Yeah, I like it because it just skips all of that part, and it kind of forces two people together. Yeah. But it's just, I like that trope in both books I read and fan fiction. I wanted a lot of tropes that I enjoy in this fic, so that's why I included that. And I thought it would be really interesting for them to sort of be forced together when they're still angry with each other.
Super forced together. You did the marriage and then you put them on a boat.
Yes. And I was like, now you got to be really close and you have to sleep in the same bed.
Yes. But then you put other people in the room.
Yeah.
Just so good. Because then it was one bed, but not really. So it extended the tension. The tension you built in this story.
Thank you. I usually, I write stuff that's a little bit silly, a little bit camp. This was the fic where I was like, I am taking this so seriously. And I think it's because I was frustrated with the stuff that was going around the fandom at the time. And I was like, I'm taking this so seriously because I want it to be good. And I want to show people that Colin can be mad at Penelope and she can be mad at him, and it can all work out in the end and be absolutely fine. Yeah. And they're going to fall in love and they're going to love each other.
And there's tension and there's stuff to work against.
Yeah.
But the way that you extended the angst, the way that you, and then it was only one bed and they were all by themselves.
Yep.
And then just the Portia letters, just chef's kiss, LillyWhitefield, chef's kiss. Just love this fic so much.
Thank you. I mean, it is my most popular.
Is it? I mean, I don't doubt it. It's just,
yeah, it's definitely the one that I think I'm the most proud of.
19 chapters.
Yeah.
1 year. And you posted the final chapter exactly 1 year after you posted the first chapter.
Yep. I found that really satisfying. When I was writing the epilogue, I was like, I think I can hang on to this for like 2 extra weeks and make it 1 year. So
absolutely, to give you that beautiful 1 year button saying goodbye to the fic.
Yeah.
But also, wasn't it with that last chapter, was that your 500K when you reached 500K? We had a challenge for our fan fiction writers in our Discord to write 500,000 words before season 3 aired, and folks lost steam.
Yeah.
Obviously, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
We were running on fumes. Fumes.
Yeah. It was a year plus of nothing.
But I believe that you were the only one who made it to 5.
Was I couldn't remember.
I knew you were going to do it.
If season 3 had come out earlier, I don't know if I would have made it. Because what put me over was A Poison Tree, and then also Pollen Week that year, because it was April. So I wrote 7 fics for that week.
You wrote 7 for Pollen Week, and then you wrote 5 for Pollen Month.
Yeah.
So you knew you were going to do these prompts, and you were doing Poison Tree at the same time. Knowing you were going to participate in Pollen Week and Pollen Month, how do you tackle stuff like that?
I see the prompts and I love a prompt. It just kind of gets my brain working. And I just kind of play around with ideas. I'm like, okay, where could I take this? Mm-hmm. And I might, fiddle around, write a little bit. And then sometimes certain ideas, certain prompts, I immediately know what I'm going to do. It just depends.
But preparing to write 7 Pollen Week fics and 5 Pollen Month fics, what does that look like?
I think I started in mid-February. And at that point in my life, I was not very satisfied with how my job was going. And so I just sort of threw myself into writing.
So it was an escape.
I just went into like Sherlock Holmes style mind palace sort of thing.
Yes.
And I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote. I actually had an Excel spreadsheet of
Yeah.
what was finished, what I still had to do. And then I had the prompt and then where I was going with it as well. Because I wanted to keep track of what I was doing. I also kept track of how many words I wrote, which I can pull up the Excel sheet and tell you exactly how many words I wrote.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for 2023 in April, I published, this is just for Pollen Week and Month, 34,000 words.
Wild.
And then I'm pretty sure I also published a poison tree that month too. So it's closer to 40,000 words in 1 month.
That's
that I
so
wrote.
wild.
I wrote over the course of like a month and a half. Yeah, a month and a half-ish, I think.
You were doing a lot.
Yeah, it was probably too much.
No, well then you focused on Poison Tree a lot. You did one Agatha Lord Ledger one shot, and then you participated in the Flash Fic Pollen Playlist Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But then other than that, you really focused on Poison Tree.
Yes.
Until our Pollenween event last year.
Yeah.
I think we gave you 2 weeks before October. It might have been a month.
No, it had to have been a month. I think it was a month. Because I Bloodlust I started in September. I know I started writing it in September because I wanted to make sure that it was finished before I started posting it.
Okay, so did I say it was a graveyard smash? Because here we are. It was a graveyard smash. First of all, thank you so much for letting me record Pumpkin and Zombie. I loved them so much.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's dive into It Was a Graveyard Smash. We got you the prompts as quickly as possible because we just wanted folks to have time.
Mm-hmm. Have time to, be inspired.
And still, you were pretty much one of the only people who participated because, again, I did not blame authors. They were tired.
Yeah, it was the middle. I think we were still in the middle of the strike, right?
I mean, had they gone, it was October 2023.
Yeah, it's no surprise that by October, people were just kind of, yeah.
So I understood that, but at the same time, the people who were writing fan fiction, I love them.
Yeah, I mean, I was seriously doing it for myself, too.
I love anyone for wanting to do it for us, but you're just going to burn out if you're not doing it mostly for yourself, right?
Yeah, truly.
And I wish more came out. I understand why more didn't come out. I'm so thankful to everyone who did participate in Pollenween and other folks who were writing Halloween, horror, sci-fi, fantasy fics during that time for Pollen.
Yes.
I wanted them so badly.
Yeah.
Last year, and you came out with Pumpkin.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how many you were going to give us, but I knew you'd been working on it for a while, and I just knew it was happening. I
was going to aim for all of them.
You actually did, at one point in your notes, say that maybe you'll go back and, finish all of the prompts. Just this fic is so special to me. And yeah, so Pumpkin dropped, and I was absolutely hooked. And then the next one was A Pirate and a Ladybug.
Yeah.
A college costume party AU with an angsty ending. The thing I loved about that is that with those first two stories, you made it clear that the Graveyard Smash collection was going to serve us a wide range of emotions and themes.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter was Zombie, and that was it. I was gone.
I really, I'm a fan of Warm Bodies, both the book and the movie.
There are moments when I would just want to throw my iPad across the room. I talked about that in other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do that when I read August. And if I wasn't poor, I would have done it. Because you managed to give us a Pollen Zombie AU where Colin is the zombie and it has a happily ever after.
Yeah.
So when you saw the zombie prompt, did you immediately know you were going to write Warm Bodies?
Oh yeah, immediately I was like, oh, Warm Bodies. That's it. Because in general, I like happily ever afters.
Yeah.
I like to be hopeful about things. I think that just goes back into not taking the writing too seriously. Like taking the writing seriously, but not taking the actual story too seriously. So Warm Bodies, I'm like, it's a zombie story with a happy ending, right?
Yes. But what came of it was just so beautiful. It nestled in this collection, one of my favorite Pollen fics.
Oh,
So I hope it comes out how I wanted it to.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what you did with it.
Personally, as an actor, getting to read Zombie, it filled my heart so much. Just as an artist, just having the opportunity to live in a world like that. Mm-hmm. I got that zing. I got that actor zing. And it's only fun if the words are great. It's only fun if the words are bad. Uh-oh.
That just makes me so happy to hear. Like, I don't know. I'm not very good at taking compliments, I guess. So I just know that just means a lot.
Yeah, now I just hope I don't fuck it up, honestly.
No, there's no way.
No, yes way. Anyway, so yeah, Zombie meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And it's why I love fan fiction, honestly. I want to dive into every possible aspect of it, but also, like, does it translate into this? And Zombie could exist in canon.
Yeah.
That's our Colin. That's our Penelope. And that's why it's special to me. Zombie could exist in canon. Colin could have gone out, could have gotten bit by a zombie, and that could be where we are.
And everyone could have retreated to Aubrey
Hall.
And you know, I think Colin is, he would absolutely have, like, one thing on his mind that would try to draw him home.
Yeah. Oh, the way you built that. He didn't know why his body was drawing him there.
Yeah.
And the way you had time go by, it was so poetic. Red, he sees red. Oh, just so beautiful. And I literally will fight anyone who does anything but take that fic seriously. I told my husband, we're doing a zombie, post-apocalyptic zombie Polin story. And he was like, okay. And then he did the first edit and he was like, this is a really good story. And I was like, I fucking told you.
That is, like, the highest compliment to me, because I feel like sometimes people who aren't in this with us, they can be kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But then, you know, to have someone who's, like, sort of an outsider.
Yeah. He was like, pumpkin patch. Oh, sure. You're like, that totally, like, is Polin. Yeah. Which is why I love pumpkin so much, because it is the most Polin story in this beautiful little pumpkin wreath package. They're so special. They're both so embrace the prompt.
Yeah. They're so different, but
full of love.
Yeah.
They're both so full of love.
Yeah. And I try to include that a lot all the time. Like, because I think it just shows that, you know, I love both of them.
Yeah.
And I just want to, it sounds so weird to say, but I want to treat them well.
Yeah. But that's who I want to read.
Yeah.
You have a deep love. You have to, if you keep going and writing this long.
Truly.
Okay, so yes, so much goodness in It Was a Graveyard Smash. You called it Was a Graveyard Smash, and you let us know from the beginning that there would in fact be a graveyard smash.
Yes.
So we were waiting.
Yeah, I made everyone wait until, because I there were a couple of free prompts.
There were.
I had ideas for all of them, and I was like, it just has to be the last one, right? Like, just to tie everything up.
So there's 21 stories. Mm-hmm. Which ones stand out for you?
Well, Pumpkin, for one, because that was the one that I think I made everyone cry.
You start us with literally the sweetest, fluffiest, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I sort of enticed everyone in with, like, a cute little snapshot.
There's going to be filth because it's called It Was a Graveyard Smash, but...
Yeah. And there was one that I think the prompt was literally just, like, dark. And I think everyone skipped that one.
No, I didn't. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
Dark Colin and Penelope never being able to be together, even in the afterlife, will just haunt me for the rest of my life.
Someone actually, in the comments, someone was like, I like to think that one day when Penelope ended up dying, she would just haunt Colin's grave forever and be around him forever. And I was like, yeah, okay, that feels a little bit better, but...
But that's not what it was.
That's not what it was, so...
Haven't we all finished a fic in our heads that hurt too much to let it exist?
You didn't like the ending of...
It hurt too much, but not this one. I like pain.
Yeah. There are people that do enjoy the pain. So I was like, this one's for you.
'Twas me. 'Twas I.
I usually don't write things like that. So it was definitely a departure for me, which is why I think I remember it.
So dark sticks out to you. Any of the other ones?
There is... I don't mind saying this because I've been very public about it. My birthday is the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And so every year for my birthday, I write something and I post it on my birthday because I like giving back. And for my birthday, it was like a pick your own prompt.
Yeah.
I picked a 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴
Yes. Oh my gosh, here we are. Yes. You did pick a 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 and you made it Halloween.
Yeah, I was like, this is entirely selfish. It is entirely for me. I don't care if anyone likes this.
It was not entirely for you.
So...
𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴. I got so excited when I saw that one.
Yeah.
Because I know that was your other fandom.
Yes. I had been trying to figure out a way to tie them together for a long time. And I had an idea for something that was longer at one point. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to it. I have ideas just floating around my Word docs just everywhere. But yeah.
I think it is so special when we get crossovers from people's beloved fandoms. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it's so wonderful when an author who so intimately knows a different series, they just know immediately how to insert these characters into this other world that they love so much. Yeah.
And did you feel that? Did you feel that when you wrote the 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 one?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I have watched that show since its beginning. I continue to watch it every year. Around December and for like the first couple of months of the year when the show is airing, I kind of go into like 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 mode.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just like I knew how Pen was going to become a nurse and a midwife, and I knew how Colin was going to become a doctor. That was also the one where I managed to slip in a little reference to Nicholas. Because
that's right, you did. Oh my gosh, I got so excited for that, and that was the reason he became a doctor. Ugh. Yes. So good.
I managed to slip that in there. I was really happy about that.
I loved it. The aptly titled 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 chapter. You did such a great job of melding two of your favorite fandoms into a story. And it was a short story. It wasn't even close to being one of the longest fics in the collection. I think Faye Colin might have been the longest.
Speaking of, Faye Colin was another one that I very distinctly remember. And I still want to expand upon that one as well.
That was interesting because you were already laying the groundwork for world building for that one.
Yeah.
I got that same romancing Captain Bridgerton, LillyWhitefield creating a world, which is...
It's a new world. It's a view into my weird brain.
Yes, but I love that weird brain.
Oh.
But yes, so Graveyard Smash to me as a collection is just so LillyWhitefield beyond it having my heart because it's Polin Halloween, horror, fantasy, sci-fi, all of the good things. Beyond that, to me, just as someone who's been your fan from literally the beginning, from Summer Afternoons to Penelope, I needed to know with Penelope, Colin, Colin, Penelope, we all needed to know all the way to Graveyard Smash. I got to see you be absolutely, authentically, 100% the LillyWhitefield that I had been reading for a year at that point, over and over and over again. And then just my eyeballs would bug out because another one? And another one?
I really let loose. Like, I just let my
21
mind go wild.
Yeah. So, yeah. And writing Bloodlust at the same time. Wild.
I love vampires. So that whole thing was technically my birthday fic for everyone.
Yeah.
I posted the last chapter of Bloodlust on my birthday.
Bloodlust.
Yeah.
It's a compilation of a lot of different vampire lore and a lot of different vampire fandoms.
Yes.
And again, what we've established by now, you love camp.
Mm-hmm.
You're playful. You are not afraid to play. Am I right?
Yes.
Like, do you like playing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely, again, I love vampires. I have consumed so much media with vampires. And I was like, okay, it's Halloween. It's the perfect opportunity for this. I'm just going to go for it. And I really went for it. There's some things that I wrote in that even right now, I'm like, I really can't believe I posted that.
I mean, it's so much fun.
It is.
But there's lore in here. There's world building in here. You created your own thing, and then you created an infrastructure for it to exist within the Bridgerton world. So it's still so serious.
Yeah.
It's so fun, and yet it is so sexy. And in terms of smut, it has 2 scenes in this fic that could only live in this fic. It has 2 of the most memorable, to me, 2 of the most memorable Polin smut scenes.
I came across a tweet one time that was talking about it. It didn't mention it by name at all, but it mentioned the scene in chapter 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, that's me. I wrote that. Because people just really remember that one.
I'm sure every vampire AU fandom, it's like, whatever, it's not a big deal. But thus far, Polin did not have it. Polin did not have that vampire AU where we got that specific vampire smut.
No.
We didn't have that. And you gave that to us.
When I tell you how I was nervous about posting that, because I figured people would be like, ew, oh my God.
They can go ahead and not read it. Meanwhile, the rest of us are going to be like, it's a vampire Polin AU. The kink calls.
Yeah.
The kink calls to this fic, right?
Yeah. I didn't expect anyone to read it. And I was just like, I don't know. I thought of the idea and I was like, someone has probably done this for someone else before. And this is really ridiculous, but I'm going to do it because it's fun.
The mirror scene is just gotta be my favorite mirror scene.
I'm really proud of that still, that I thought of that.
The way you just gave me life, October 2023. It's just, your work has really meant so much to me. And we're not even done. We'll just keep going. But lots of prompts. Lots more prompts in Polin Weeks. And within that, you did dip your toe into alpha, beta, omega dynamics. And you did that for Polin Month.
I sure did.
With a one-shot, which I thought was super adorable. You Will Still Love Me the Same.
You Will Still Love Me the Same, yes.
Empty nesters, alpha, beta, omega dynamics.
Yep.
Elder, not elderly, elder Polin. And a little mini chase scene. So cute.
And, I've always loved that sort of trope, I guess you could call it, that universe.
Yeah.
I was just like a little intimidated by it because there's a lot of established lore, I guess.
Speaking of established lore, I knew we would be delving into this topic, so I asked our friend and fanfiction author, 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘗 to help us clarify what alpha, beta, omega dynamics is, in case anyone is unfamiliar.
The shorthand is Omegaverse is a universe where humans are born with designations that essentially allow them to find their soulmate or the person that matches them, mind, body, and soul. The 3 variations of the designations are betas, who are basically humans with no extra powers, alphas, who are considered the top of the chain, and omegas, who are generally the alpha's partners or mates. Now, alphas and omegas usually have mating glands. It's a raised bump on the back of their neck that symbolizes their designation. Part of their condition includes heightened sense of smell of every individual with excessive sexual desires that are elevated during specified times of arousal. Outside of that, they function like everyday adults, and the society works with a generalized hierarchy of alphas being on top, omegas underneath them, and betas going after that. Now, most of this is common and understood, and they're the standard principles for how each writer forms in alpha, beta, omega dynamic, but these things change from writer to writer.
Thank you, 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘗. Hopefully that little bit of knowledge will help clear up any potential confusion as we talk about LillyWhitefield's Omegaverse fics. So, you and I were on the Discord together sharing space with a bunch of the authors who were writing for the tag early on.
Yes.
Ravenpuff, of course, but Fire Lily, Purple Day, with Prosecco in it.
It really exploded. I think my first foray into it was Captivated in Captivity by With Prosecco in it.
So you held off for a while.
Mm-hmm.
She had already written Sense of Mystery.
I went back and I read that. Once I read that, because Captivated in Captivity, it had
Which is a work in progress.
Yeah, it is. Which, is fine.
It's totally fine. I like to tell people when things are works in progress.
Yeah, me too.
But you're absolutely right that there's so much in it that's very worthy of reading.
Yes.
And the premise is really good.
Yeah, it tapped into my like marriage thing that I like a lot.
You explore that in Sense of Longing a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So you said Captivated in Captivity?
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
But you didn't start writing it till a year later.
No, because I wanted to finish A Poison Tree before I started something else. So I had the idea.
And was not surprising, that idea?
Yeah, I had the idea like in like January of this year, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have no idea how much I wanted this fic. I really wanted a modern AU, alpha, beta, omega dynamics fic where they're heat mates.
Mm-hmm.
Pen asked Colin to help her through her first heat.
Yeah.
I thought the premise was so good, and I really wanted our tag to have it.
Yeah.
When you wrote the summary, I knew you were going to tell a great story.
It was so much fun. I thought of the idea kind of randomly. I think I was reading something else for a different fandom. I don't remember what it was at this time. And I think I saw that idea or something similar to it in something else. And I was like, this would be a really good modern AU.
Yeah.
The idea of, in my head, the specific premise that I had, it could only work in a modern setting.
Yeah.
Because I prefer to write Regency, but I'm like, this just isn't going to work that way. So
to me, why I love alpha, beta, omega dynamics in modern is because then it gives modern some stakes that sometimes I feel like I want. Because then there's rules and there's danger and there's...
Yeah, it definitely adds a layer of rules that a lot of modern settings don't have.
Yeah, which is why I love Regency, because there's rules. And so there's inherent conflict. There's inherent...
There's rules, and then you have ways that you can break the rules, which is really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a little bit dangerous, and there's an urgency.
Yes.
There's just an innate sexiness to it, and yeah. So you did the one shot for Polin Month the year before, but then you came out with this one, and I was like, yes, thank you, please. And I was really excited to see you explore alpha, beta, omega dynamics again very recently with the Sense of Longing.
Yeah.
And this was, again, a prompt.
Yep. And I don't know if the prompt giver is okay with me saying their name.
Yeah, I asked Ox, who is in our Discord, if we could use her name, and she said yes. And the Discord is where the prompt came from. We did season 3 bingo, and the authors agreed to write fics for the winners.
Yeah, she picked me, and I was like, I was like, yes, I love this. This is perfect.
Talk to me about the process of building that.
So Ox said that, she didn't want Colin to have presented yet, and she wanted him to be really struggling with that. And then the next point that she said and that she wanted was that she wanted Colin to present after he kissed Penelope.
That was great.
I expanded on what she gave me a lot. I just wanted to write more. Once I get going, sometimes I keep going and I build the world, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wanted to have like a little bit of a plot in this that was more than just like, I needed Colin to have more of a reason to want to kiss Penelope.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
So which is why I introduced like the whole, like Portia trying to arrange a marriage for her and that kind of thing. So that's where that came from. That was all me. Basically the only thing that Ox wanted was like, so Colin hasn't presented. He's really stressed out about it.
Yeah.
But then he kisses Penelope and he presents and he just goes full alpha.
Yeah, full alpha.
And then we also talk through the scene of like when he presents and what kind of things that would be fun to have. And so she was like, what if he jumps out the window and just runs across the street?
Yes.
What if he like barricades the door? It's just full chaos.
Yes. Chaos Colin, but make it alpha, beta, omega dynamics.
Yeah.
Just chef's kiss. Just chef's kiss. Also just creating an actual world where we get to see Colin struggle with things that we have canonically seen Penelope struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Just so interesting. So damn interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll write any more, or that's...
Any more alpha, beta, omega stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, you got other stuff to write. I love the 3 you have for us. I'm happy that you're there in the tag whenever I look it up. And now we have so many people writing.
I know. There's so many writers that have come up since season 3.
But for years, we had Ravenpuff.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
I actually haven't read some of the newer ones, and I'm interested to see how the lore is holding up, how the world building is holding up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see how other people take it. Because even with the lore, it can be taken in so many different ways.
Yeah. So it's just so interesting to have been a part of the beginning, to be there from the beginning, to be intrigued by it, to have read it under other tags, and to see where it is now. Where
it's so much. It makes me so happy to see so many new fics. It's hard to keep up with. There are definitely ones that I'm like, I'm going to have to get to this at a later point.
Yeah.
There are times when I don't read certain fics because I'm like, I might write something similar in the very near future.
Yeah. But it'll be waiting for you.
Yeah, definitely. If I decide I'm not going to write this idea, or if I'm going to come back to it, or if, I finished the fic that I was writing, I always mark fics for later. I have a list of things that I have yet to read.
I'm also not in a hurry to read everything that's ever been written.
Me either.
It's going to slow down someday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not ready to not have a great fic waiting for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. Yeah, because I know that it's going to slow down, especially because if they end up taking just as long between seasons as they did before, which it sounds like they might, there's going to be another drought. So.
But yes, so I'm not in a hurry to read everything written right now.
Yeah.
I'm taking my time. I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed reading all of your fics again. Yeah. We're going to move on because I can't keep you here till 1 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, you could. I did not expect us to talk about everything.
Honestly, LillyWhitefield, I didn't either.
Yeah.
But yes, so what are you working on now?
The thing that I'm working on right now that I have, that's actually a few chapters have been published, is To Build a Hell in Heaven's Despite.
Yes.
And it's a murder AU.
It's very necessary for the tag. I was very excited to see you take this up.
I'm glad to hear that. I was actually really nervous about doing this.
Really?
The idea actually, so I think I've said this. I think I said it in the author's note, but the idea came from Lisa Frankenstein. I watched.
That's right.
For the first times, I watched it like 4 times in a row. I loved it so much. But I was stuck on the idea of a couple who love each other so much, but they kill for each other. I was like, I think Colin and Penelope, if they were just a little bit different, they would do that.
The premise is so Polin.
Yeah. They're still friends. There's no 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴 in it. And I've changed a couple of details about some of the characters just to make it fit a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's gonna follow, season 1, season 2, and season 3 eventually, and explore how they get together. All while killing people that they deem not worthy of the other.
It's got that campy, for those of us who love that genre.
I originally almost did it in like the Lisa Frankenstein era, the 80s. But ultimately I decided it was easier to get away with murder back then.
That's true. I love that thought process.
Yeah. I feel like I have to say, I don't murder people.
No.
But it's fiction and it's fun. It's supposed to be fun.
It's fiction and it's fun. And you make them bad.
I do. I put a big disclaimer at the beginning. I'm like, you're still gonna love them, because they're Colin and Penelope, but they're not good people.
But you also make the people that are, I am assuming, meeting their demise.
No one in the story is really that good of a person, other than the rest of the Bridgertons.
It's all in service to the genre.
Yes. Yeah. It's meant to be fun. I do this for free, right? Like, this is a hobby.
Good point. Yeah, and just it should be fun. It should be, and to me as a reader, it's just like, oh, this is a challenge.
Yeah.
LillyWhitefield is going to give me a world in which Murder AU is absolutely plausible. She's going to give me characters to root for.
Yeah, and ultimately that's my goal, right? Is I want to set up a world, and I still want you to root for Colin and Penelope, both of them. Yes. I love both of them so much, and I want to make sure people like both of them, even if they're doing bad things.
In a pretend world.
In a pretend world, yeah. You know, I myself have read many a toxic romance that never in a million years would I ever want to be in a real relationship like that. But again, it's fiction, you know.
LillyWhitefield, honestly, I mean, you're a librarian, so this is blasphemy to you.
Yeah.
I've just been so fulfilled by fan fiction that I don't know if it's book talk, I don't know if it's bookstagram, but I've just been so about books.
Yeah. It's so funny when you're a librarian because first of all, people assume your whole job is books, which it's sort of...
I mean, you need to know about books.
Yeah, it sort of is in a way.
But also you need to help people.
That's the big part of the job, is helping people. And sort of tangentially from that is like making sure that information is organized in order to get it to people to help them. Yeah. And it's also knowing the right questions to ask when someone comes up to you with something that they want to know more about, so that you can sort of piece together what their purpose is, what they want to know more about, for what reason.
Yeah.
And that's the part about the job that I love, is like the sort of searching and the mystery aspect of it.
And it's so community
and
pure in a way, because you're doing it in a space that's free.
It's free. I don't know how to emphasize this more. It is free. You do not have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We truly serve our community. I'm just so passionate about libraries and like making sure information is free and available to everyone. I think everyone should be able to learn whatever the heck they want to.
Absolutely.
From good sources, and librarians are the people who know what a good source is, and they can find that for you. And not enough people go to use the public library, and so go do that if you haven't. Go see what they have.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, that was like a library tangent,
no.
But I just love talking about libraries and really trying to push people to go use them.
Thank you so much for articulating all of that.
Yeah.
I really, really do appreciate that so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in one podcast episode, I am breaking 2 of my podcast rules.
I know, it's a little bit my fault.
No works in progress recommended, and only 1 rec.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing your love of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, I asked for your top pick in that genre, plus your favorite in any genre.
Yeah.
Planning to choose one, but then you hit me with my haunts me in my dreams because it's a work in progress, my absolute favorite horror, sci-fi, fantasy Polin story.
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind, and I was like, oh, it's not finished, though.
It's not. And then you shared your all-time favorite Polin fic with me, and I thought, damn it, LillyWhitefield. That is such a freaking good rec.
I know.
I have to do both of them.
Yeah, sorry.
I hope my previous featured authors forgive me, because they all really wanted to give me more than 1 recommendation. It's impossible to choose just one.
I know. It was really hard.
The way I'm rationalizing it is that, okay, 1 is a work in progress. I can't leave you without a finished fic rec. So that was my reasoning for why rules must be broken.
Yeah.
So all of that to ask you, LillyWhitefield, what is your all-time favorite Polin horror, sci-fi, fantasy, ... fic?
It is The Sun Might Not Rise by 𝘍𝘪𝘤𝘴. I think that's the title.
It is. The Sun Might Not Rise.
Okay. Sometimes titles of fan fictions, when they're more than like 2 words, they kind of mush together in my head a little bit. But yeah, that one. And I feel like if I say it's the one, it's The Mist AU.
Yeah, it's the fic that was inspired by The Mist by Stephen King.
Yeah, people will know what I mean by that because it's so good.
Yes. The Mist is my favorite Stephen King story. And Zim Eyebright is an amazing author. What she had already written was just such good angst, such good stories, such good characters. So when she was like, yeah, I'm going to do The Mist by Stephen King, I was like, oh my God, it's happening.
Yes, exactly.
So what was your journey with that?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I guess to start, I should say I'm not actually a huge Stephen King fan. There are definitely, I don't like read all of his books. I know some people are like, they just voraciously read his books. Yeah, I'm not quite like that. My personal favorite Stephen King story is Misery. But I do also love The Mist. And then when I read this, I was like, it's such a good idea.
Such a good idea.
Because it's like, you know, the fact that Penelope is alone when she starts off and she's kind of like, she's running out of food. She's maybe like going a little bit, you know, kind of stuck inside her head. Really just not doing great.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden Colin returns. Like as a reader, you're just like, you just inhale. You're just like,
yeah.
Oh my God. And then they're like, we can't stay here. We have to go to Aubrey Hall where everyone else is.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it together.
Yeah. And then you add Fife.
Fife, yes.
And the monsters, just the way that she created the atmosphere of it.
Yeah.
She didn't shirk any of it. It's all so thought out.
Yes. It's so good.
Ugh, it hurts that it's unfinished.
It is unfinished. And it kind of kills me a little bit.
Honestly. And maybe somehow selfishly, I'm allowing the work in progress to be recommended so people read it and comment and kudo.
Yeah.
And maybe get this fic out of retirement.
Out of limbo.
Yeah.
I'm just such a big fan of like horror fics. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still think about that every once in a while.
Same. And it's written to the quality that is a dream.
Yeah.
Everything is there.
Yes.
It is top tier. Haunts me.
Yeah.
Haunts me that it's unfinished.
Yep.
So now, what is your all-time favorite non-work in progress, any genre Polin fanfiction?
It is Busted by Lavender Daydreams.
Yay! I get all of the happy feelings when I get the author pick because it's like, this is LillyWhitefield.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I knew I've, listened to the podcast before and I knew you were going to ask me what my favorite fic was. And I am notoriously bad at bookmarking things.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me sometimes to remember to go back and remember the fics that I like. But this one I did bookmark when I read it and I was scrolling through my bookmarks deciding what I was going to pick. And I'm like, this is the one I truly keep going back to and reading over and over again.
Should we do like a little summary? Mm-hmm. It's 5 times Colin noticed Penelope's boobs and 2 times he got to do more than notice. So can you tell us why it's the one you come back to?
It's told from Colin's point of view, which for some reason I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
More than Penelope's point of view. And so one of the things that I absolutely adore is that he's still a writer in this, but he writes his own erotica.
Such a good detail. Which again, hey, it ended up being a part of season 3.
It's canon. And you know what? I was going to mention this. So that is canon now, which I love. And there's also a moment because there is a carriage scene in it. And in the carriage scene, one of them says a line where I think Colin might be like, I'm going to give you everything. And I was just like, wait a minute.
She foretold Pitbull.
Yeah. I was like, this, because I had to check. I was like, this was written like over a year ago.
Yeah, it was.
Almost impossible that could have happened. But there it was. So, I don't know. It's just so good. It has everything that I want. It's sweet. It's a little bit spicy. It's, has writer Colin. I feel like they're so in character and so true to them in, the book and the show. And I don't know. It's just, I keep going back to it. It just makes me happy every time I read it.
Yes. Same.
I don't know. I just love it. And I also love that Penelope gives him the journal that he writes all of this erotica in. And it's so good. If you haven't read it,
read it.
It's not like a super talked about fic for some reason.
It deserves so much love.
I want more people to talk about it. It deserves more people to talk about it.
Yes.
I just want people to go shower it with love because it's so good.
I do too. That's why I decided, well, I gotta break rule number 2 because I have to rec Busted. So now those of you who've read The Sun Might Not Rise and Busted understand why pod rules had to be broken.
Exactly, yeah.
And for folks who haven't read them yet, I mean, I don't generally tell people what to do, but you need to go read them.
Yeah.
Then you'll see exactly why we had to make an exception and include both a work in progress and 2 recommendations.
Yes.
Make sure to comment and kudo both of them because they're both absolutely worthy of love. And maybe someday The Sun Might Not Rise will be finished, because I'm never going to lose hope on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping with like maybe enough gushing about how good it is that we'll get another chapter or an update or something.
Yes. LillyWhitefield, you forced me to break the rules.
You're welcome.
But yes, so thank you for these stellar recommendations, for sitting down with me today, for being in community with me for the past 2 years.
Absolutely.
And for sharing your incredible stories with all of us. I really, really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, wanting to read my stories and talk to me,
Of course.
It's been such a good time. I feel like I don't get to talk about this with a lot of people outside of fandom. So it's really fun to do it in this way, I guess.
Yay, I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Thank you for listening to the Fics and Recs podcast. Links to Lily Whitefield's profiles and her Polin fanfiction recommendations can all be found on the Fics and Recs social media pages. Join us next time for more fanfiction, conversations, and recommendations. Until then, this is WMN. Happy reading.